I think that there's no more gas on Earth because my gas tank is empty. And they're like, well, one day there will be no more gas on Earth, but that's not happening. They're, okay, so you're saying it, you're admitting it. There's no more gasoline on Earth. Like, no, I'm not saying, like, there will be one day. So like, how do you know that that day's not here? Well, like, we have others. Look, well, okay, those are those metrics, but when I look at the metric I look at, which is my gas tank, you have to understand, that's the metric I've always used. It was the metric we used in 1960 to know if there was more gas on Earth. Like, no, like, you look other ways. Like, I don't think so. It's so stupid. Top 10 low sleep analogies. Very tired. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Whatifalthist. The greasiest man on the internet, a person who should definitely never be on the forefront, on the front end of a camera. Jesus Christ, has declared war on the internet with his video. I declare war on the internet. We're just gonna listen to some of this one. We might listen to this one all the way through. I'm tired enough that I won't probably like think too hard. But this is Whatifalthist. He is a literal man baby with the brain of a rock. Like he's like a sentient mushroom kind of deal. He looks exactly like what I thought he would look like, which is crazy because that's not good. And he shot this despite having enough money to get maybe a better camera at 720p. I guess this is on like a like on a fucking laptop or something. This room is look at what is going on back here, actually. Now that I can see. This looks like he just fucking robbed a Pier 1 Imports. Got a Chase Lounge. A mirror stand, a series of tapestries, but I guess he probably doesn't know how to use a hammer and nail, so he has not hung them up on the wall. He just has tapestries hanging off the edge of his bookshelf. Oh my god. I love that the one book with the title I can read just says Dictators. Is that intentional? I think this is the word tragedy. Dictators and agity.
Hi everybody. I haven't live streamed in a while and I kind of missed that. And I have a brief announcement. It's all fun. And then I'll go on for a couple of minutes, no promises for as long as I'll talk. And you guys can ask me questions. I'll ramble about whatever's on my mind.
My man's got that Humbert phrenology.
I just declared war on the internet. And so I challenge Nick Fuentes, Vaush, Sneeko, Destiny, and Hassan to debate. Those are all separate debates. And I don't want any of these debates to exceed an hour, and they should all be live and moderated. And J-Reg has offered to moderate. And
is this like a clinging to relevance thing? Here's the biggest issue. First off, on what? On what? Like, on what? What do you want to debate them on? You have to start with that. Because I don't even give a shit about how the debate is set up. I want to know individually what in the fuck. I know we'll probably get into it, but I want you to lead with that. Is it the camera? But his proportions look wild. Dude looks gangly. No, this is a guy. This is a dude. How high do I have this up? This is a dude that has probably never had a real job because he got internet famous, right? When he was a child. So like this is an unworked body. This is the European build of someone that just like never has a job and then fucking like works in an office. This is like somebody that just gets access to like public transportation so he gets to move around. I'm fucking with you Europeans, you guys are okay. But he does have that Humbert type, summers in, he does his summers in Milan because he can just like walk there.
And
I'm too tired for being mean. I'm so sorry, everyone.
If any of you back down, I want you to know that you're a coward. So I did the business out of that for a minute. Let's see what happens.
Here's another. Does Sneeko know who the fuck you are? Maybe he does, but like Sneeko, I don't even know if Sneeko knows who Vaush is. It's such a wild round of people. I mean, Sneeko knows who Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, because of Destiny, has access to a lot of people he wouldn't, right? That's like one of Destiny's biggest fuck ups, is just actively platforming Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is like a neo-Nazi, like a literal neo-Nazi. Like that's his thing. He's a piece of shit. But he has access to like Destiny's community because Destiny brought him on, and that gave him enough clout to approach other people as being like a Destiny adjacent neo-Nazi, like literally. And so if you're like anti-Jew or anti like, humanity in some small or large respect, he's a great person to talk to because he'll be very Nick Fuentes will be very polite to almost anybody that is a bigot and nice to him. Like, and and he has enough notoriety that kind of goes. You know what I'm saying? He's got his own little fucking crew of gripers and shit, and he's out there. So that's how Sneeko knows through that, because like Sneeko talked to Destiny. They're massive streamers, and so Sneeko also has talked, therefore, to Nick Fuentes. Sneeko is literally stupid as fuck. He's not even real. Like, Sneeko doesn't have any actual policy prescriptions. He's like an embarrassment to his actual family. A literal cuck who can't hold it down with a woman because he has no personality, and his entire thing is just being grimy, right? And that's it. Like, he's a guy whose audience is going to get old here in the next couple years, and so he has to try to hold on to novelty. Sneeko can't debate anybody at all, and he doesn't have any real like beliefs. So like challenging Sneeko to just a debate is crazy, because like even Sneeko's gonna be like Sneeko's gonna be like, you have to provide me a point for me to even agree on first before, because like I don't even know what I'm gonna. Sneeko doesn't know what he's going to believe this week because he hasn't gotten in trouble yet. You know what I mean? You gotta wait till the next news cycle to even know if you're going to disagree with the guy that week, because that's like the current political decisions that he's making. That's just, he's a crazy person to talk about. I don't think I don't think Whatifalthist would disagree with Nick Fuentes categorically on anything except for more than likely propriety. Like, you shouldn't say the N-word on camera or something. I don't know. Vosh is on the Fortress arc. I think the only thing that might suss him out is this fucking like, this is the one thing I think Vosh would actually fucking take anyone up on. I predict Vosh saying, people say I won't leave in debate anymore, but here I am. I'm going to go and debate Whatifalthist, because it's like, somebody with a championship belt, and this guy's it's very much of Whatifalthist versus Vosh is like Logan Paul versus or Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson if Jake Paul had never practiced boxing. Vosh is old and retired and was notorious back in his day. I think we had this discussion in the Discord that we're not allowed to compare Vosh. I said it. You're not allowed to compare Vosh to boxers whose names you recognize, but just as far as internet shit goes, that's it. I could see Vosh taking that, because it's like more, what it's closer to is the Great White Hype. You guys remember that? The Great White Hype, a fucking boxing movie where I think it's Keenan Ivory Wayans. It's one of the Wayans brothers, I believe. I'm just guessing. He plays like a championship boxer, and then what's his name? Woody Harrelson. I think it's Woody Harrelson plays a white boxer who's like the come up, and they hype it up as like he's gonna be the white boxer that takes back like heavyweight boxing, and the other guy doesn't even practice, and then he still wins. People have said that it's that Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury is kind of like the inversion of that movie. But like Keenan Wayne's character gets like fat as fuck the entire time, and he's ignoring the actual guy who could possibly be the real like next challenger to him, and he's completely out of shape, and that guy jumps up and punches him in the face, and it turns into a thing. Tyler, they've debated before. Is it Damon Wayans? Okay. What is it? This is the first time I'm seeing what a Whatifalthist look like. I was picturing like a skinny 20-year-old incel. I think that's how old this guy is. Note that I look like half the age of this dude. Also, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this. I don't know why that collar's that wide. Great White Hope was a real thing between like 1910 with Jack Johnson, the first black champ, all the way to Peter McNeely versus Mike Tyson. Is it? No, that can't be true. Because you had like the Cinderella Man guy back then, right? He was fighting in the Great Depression. Yeah, but you have plenty of fucking like white boxers that far back, like before World War II. That's when everybody was fighting. People were fighting for food back then. You got fucking. It's that wide so you can see he has chest hair. That's no good. That's no good. Oh my god.
But now you guys can ask me questions and I'll keep talking as long as I feel like it. So let me tell you the projects I've been working on lately.
Well, what the fuck? Was that just Clout shit? God damn, this dude is gangly. This is actually Jeff Thu. I feel like Mother's Basement might watch me. But this is what Jeff Thu kind of looks like. If Jeff Thu was a fucking bigot, this is what Mother's Basement would look like. They actually have an extremely similar fucking build, but like Whatifalthist just got that negative riz.
One of which is I made a video on. Should I spoil the videos that are coming out soon? I'm making a video on the coming population.
Is he wearing a cross? Not that I can see.
Hopefully very soon.
That's just his nasty fat fucking chest hair.
That's the fundamental biggest issue of our society, because the way I see our society in the most poignant way is we are a society that tries to hide the fundamental reality of the world, where we spend all of our times dawdling on Epicureanism rather than dealing with the fundamental issues.
Epicureanism? Like what? Like food? Oh, the school rejected determinism and advocated hedonism, but of a restrained kind. Mental pleasure was regarded more highly than physical, and the ultimate pleasure was held to be freedom from anxiety and mental pain. Okay.
That belie our society, and because of that, we focus on luxuries and we focus on political ideologies as a way to avoid the underlying realities of the world. And I read this interesting book by Seraphim Rose, who was an Orthodox theologian, and he wrote that the modern world is divided between those who try to pretend that we don't have a lack of meaning in our society and those who realize it and go crazy. And that book was written in the 60s, and I think it's gotten more true ever since. And so when you look at our society, the fundamental reality is the birth rate's collapsing. People are going crazy, but we will not focus upon them. And anyone who brings them.
How is that the fundamental reality? How is that a fundament? A fundament is the true underlying reality of society, which is, first off, kind of that is oxymoronic, because society does not have any fundamentality, right? Societies are never founded on specific universal ideals that maintain themselves eternally through the society. That's just like maybe some little kid's beliefs. You know, that's also if you get brain poisoned by reading a lot of bad old what do you call that? Basically like historical apologetics and like Leonizing accounts of what made these societies. Then you get to these like, this society was founded on a principle of X. Those are like lies that people tell themselves. I don't know how to describe this better. There's also never a single one. Usually it's some sort of constitutional document, you know, like we hold these truths to be self-evident. Like that's like the reason we broke away, but like the Constitution has its own different stuff. Those would basically be the closest you get to the fundamental like ideals of a society. The fundamental truth of a society is a weird phrase. It's something that's very difficult to get into. And I don't think it's often something that exists outside of fascist societies, which I guess maybe you're probably advocating for, even if you don't agree. Because a fascist society or a fascist movement will found itself underneath singular fundamental truths, basically as an act of trying to secure surety for itself by basically saying like, yeah, our fundamental truth, our fundamental aspect of the society is trying to secure a future for the white race and white children or whatever. I know of the 14 words, cannot fucking remember them ever because don't care. This gives me so much flax to OG YouTube with loonies talking to the camera. It's old school, man. But yeah, like most societies are not actually founded on a fundamental truth. Maybe like their statements about themselves have that aspect of it. But most societies are just founded on whatever the fuck was there before. We built a little bit on top of it, and this rickety structure is what we're holding together while we try to figure out how to get corn from one side of a kingdom to another. There's not a lot of fundamentality because a lot of times societies are based on really just loose agreements between chunks of people, large and small. You know what I mean? There aren't a lot of founding principles really when you get down to it, because that's that. And if you think that they are like fundamental, as in like if that principle was broken or that principle was removed, the society would cease to exist. That would mean that every time like people act or you know the state acted unconstitutionally in America, it would actually like unravel the society because those are the fundamental ideals, you know what I mean, of America. But most countries and societies and states throughout history, especially once they're actually in charge, and it's not like we want things to be like this when we're in charge. Once you are in charge, almost inevitably you find that societies that are founded on certain ideals will go against those ideals instantaneously the second they need to, for whatever reason, you know. This society is based on, you know, free egalitarian movement and sharing of resources, will very suddenly find itself locking off whole sections of the population and not giving them anything kind of deal. This is the difficulty of like kind of dealing with Whatifalthist. Like the premises is just so wrong that you have to go off on these whole like tangents of like, well, that doesn't really, like that's the whole conversation. Is just your fucking fucked up premise. Like we can't, or we have to skip to it and just I re-arrive at talking to you way down the line after you've built a house of cards by throwing them into the air over top you, having one land on your face and saying like, look, my house is at least as tall as I am. It's a little maddening.
Those issues up has an emperor's new clothes moment. And I think that's fundamentally fascinating because for most societies in history, they focused upon some core spiritual truth. And beyond that core spiritual truth, they moved outwards to how to deal with base reality. But in our world, we're materialistic first, in that we focus upon physical, material things, and then we ignore the broader questions of meaning. And that worked when the industrial world was very wealthy, but now we're seeing it break down. And I think you could view our entire society as trying to ignore this underlying crash that is going to plague our society. So I've been working on the population crash video, and I always wanted to make more historic content, but
here's the thing: if you don't, I keep hearing that he doesn't take, and all the time he represents books, he's like, yeah, this book was written in 1960. You can't write about the population crisis in any valuable way, even if it does exist, without using modern data and metrics, a lot of which are established by texts, like the analysis of birth rates and the mathematics that let like you boil all of that shit down with, because that was part of my one or two sociology courses I had to take in college were about birth and death rate and how to actually like what the fuck they actually meant and how to try to articulate like the overall life index or whatever it is. I don't know, OLI. So it's something like that. An actual ethnographer could fucking get you awake. That's why you should listen to ethnographers and sociologists, real sociologists, not Vosh, when it comes to this stuff, because the actual boiling those things down is actually considerably more difficult. But basically, birth rate and death rate do not equate to like actually the actual. They don't really correlate to much. They're not like correlative statements. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how to use that metric. You know what I'm saying? Because it changes all the time, and what is causing it, like, is way more important. What is happening to affect birth rates, death rates, is much more important than the number itself, because like that could even show you that your like statistics are wrong or something. This is a very difficult subject to talk about, and I don't think he has the fucking wherewithal to get into it. It's hard for me. It's something I'm not an expert in. But to step back, birth rates can decline. Birth rates can go down a bunch. They really just can. We have too many people on Earth. Not like ever, but like your populations hit neutral points, right? All population birth rates eventually hit a logarithmic end because you hit capacity for certain areas. That doesn't mean anything bad. Like, more than likely, like you hit natural pressure systems will cause birth rates to decline. Killing all of the women, for instance, in a subsection of areas. So we have Whatifalthist. In Whatifalthist, there's 100 men and 100 women, right? And you kill 100 women. The birth rate is going to plummet, right? But that doesn't mean that the population will go down in Whatifalthist, right? All of the women die one year. The birth rate goes down to 0, okay? But for some reason, the population stays the same. Why? Because 100 dudes moved into Whatifalthist and all started fucking each other. So there's still 200 people there. Because you can have population transfers and stuff across the border. Borders are made up lines. They're only useful relative to the political goings on of a certain area. Because next to Whatifalthist, a 200-person all homosexual like colony on a little island is fucking the Republic of Tyler, which has 10 million people in it, okay? And like we kind of go around. So every time the birth rate just stays 0 in Whatifalthist, but every year the population goes up. Why? Because we have a constant influx of emigres out there, because everybody finds out that Whatifalthist is the best place to get your fucking asshole blown out, like, on the globe. Like, Whatifalthist is where you go to get fucking reamed. No women, just all dudes. And every year the population grows higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, while the birth rate remains 0. Why? Emigration. You know what I'm saying? You could have you have the Republic of Tyler has a declining population despite having a massive birth rate. Why? Because everyone hates the Republic of Tyler. Why? Not, I guess the best place to have like relentless gay sex for some reason. I don't know. It flies in the face of the policy of the Republic of Tyler, which is Westalia, Tyler's Westalia. Which is like gay sex for everybody, but like when you get there, they're like, we don't support that at all for some reason. It's just political inversion between what they say and what they do. So there's just a really high birth rate there, fucking like a positive 8-person birth rate, but the population is steadily decreasing. Why? Because people don't want to stay there, so people leave. These are such complex metrics that just saying the birth rate is on the decline is literally worthless, because it's just a metric. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like seeing your car run out of gas and saying like, I can extrapolate this out to there's no more gas in the world because I have put gas in this gas tank when it's gone down right now it's not doesn't have gas in it. So like there might not be gas on Earth anymore. You know, there's and then when you have a conversation with somebody about it, they're like, what's going on here? Like, I think that there's no more gas on Earth because my gas tank is empty. They're like, well, one day there will be no more gas on Earth, but that's not happening. They're, okay, so you're saying it, you're admitting it. There's no more gasoline on Earth. Like, no, I'm not saying, like, there will be one day. So like, how do you know that that day's not here? Well, like, we have others that look, well, okay, those are those metrics, but when I look at the metric I look at, which is my gas tank, how does that even prove? They'll never ask that question. But you have to understand, that's the metric I've always used. It was the metric we used in 1960 to know if there was more gas on Earth. Like, no, like, you look other ways. Like, I don't think so. It's so stupid. Top 10 low sleep analogies. Very tired. The car has fallen, million must walk. Tyler Stan. Don't name the gay ethno state like that. Whatifalthist Stan fell. And that is the truth. It was west. It was, in my mind, it literally is an island west of the Republic of Tyler. And it has fallen.
The things that you guys like and the things that are most meaningful to the population is the geopolitics content, about which is the most topical for our day and age. But I made a Japanese civilization video, and that's going to be coming out soon. And that was a lot of work to research. I read like 6 books in Japan since the new year. And I have a lot of recommendations in that video because so many of the books I read for the Japan video were just terrible. And so I had to,
What about the state of Vashalia? Vashalia? The state of Vashalia is actually in this world. Oh my God. If I had any more brain matter left, I would do this. I would do a fantasy map of different streamers, fucking countries. Vashalia, home of the Vashites, is actually an extremely expansive steppe country, right? It comprises the largest landmass, but has a rapidly declining population. But there is a lot of horses. It's basically like where the wild horses do roam. The state of Vasha, the Vasha is actually a khanate of horse nomads.
I wanted to tell you guys of the things that were good to read. And my favorite books in Japan I read were The Chrysanthemum and the Sword by Ruth Benedict. I think that's one of the best anthropology books I've ever read. And Taggart Murphy's book on Japan and the Shackles of the Past was also excellent.
The Chrysanthemum and the Sword, Patterns of Japanese Culture, is a 1946 study of Japan by American anthropologist Ruth Benedict, compiled from her analysis of Japanese culture during World War II for the U.S. Office of War Information. I cannot think of a worse way to try to understand Japanese culture than a book that was literally written before the start of the Showa era. Imagine trying to understand modern Japan with a book that's written before the start of the Showa era. Just, that's crazy. That's crazy. The most important era of Japan's modernization after the Meiji Restoration, the Showa era. Just, we're not going to get into that. You cut out the literal modernization and industrialization of Japan. Like, you have industrial Japan in the 1920s and stuff, all right? You've got fucking Sino-Russian or the Russo-Japanese War, however you want to call it. Not Sino, Sino's Chinese. But you have like you have like 1911, which is the Heian period. I could be fucking wrong about that. But that's a small subsection of Japan, and throughout the entirety of the 20s, 30s, and 40s is an extremely tumultuous cultural like era. It's very fucked, right? That ends in 1945 with the greatest tragedy to ever befall Japan, committed by us, right? A humiliating, holistic, bloody, nuclear grade, quite literally defeat at the hands of a white foreign power, which has never happened. Japan was one of like the unconquered nations, as opposed to like disgraceful, disgusting China, which was like, you know, a pet project of Britain here and there. And a lot of the other Asian areas, you know, were taken over by like France and shit. Japan finally fell to a white foreign power. And that created a cultural identity crisis that continued in that country for decades and created an entirely different Japan, which is still struggling with its cultural identity today. A fight between a hyper idealized, literally religious identity based on the fucking an actual theocratic monarchy, which is really what Japan was a theocratic monarchy with their emperor. Their emperors were like descended from God style, old school monarchs who were seen as also kind of like gods on earth. They're still there. They're still there despite all the prime ministers and stuff. Part of the country, and I'm kind of like flubbing that this is just so much shit you need to know. During the Restoration, a lot of shogun, like literal shoguns and stuff, or not shoguns. Is it shogun? Either way, the heads of these samurai houses that still exist, they still fucking exist. They started becoming industrial fucking mega giants. Like Honda was like a great house of Japan, if I remember correctly. Toyota, I think, is like a great Japanese like house. Like these are like the dynastic, handed down, descended from the emperor. These literal like bloodline to the emperor, former conquerors of this island nation became industrial mega giants that ran the country like a glorified slave labor camp to this day. The reason that you have the declining birth rates in Japan is because they can't whip the Japanese peasantry who have been elevated through like education and shit into fucking to make more goddamn slaves for them. Like, dude, Japan is a psycho fucking state. It's so crazy. But the most important part of it is the entirety of the oligarchy that existed underneath the emperor coming out from underneath him, dominating Reconstruction and creating industrial empires that spanned not just their country but the world. Like that, it is Japan broke its borders. It broke its borders into the white world, the white fucking Western world for the first time really in that era. And like spread. Like they had factories in America. Like, dude, talking about Japan and trying to separate Japan in 19 versus Japan that's building fucking Toyota factories in like Minnesota is crazy. Like that, it's nuts. They were the most isolationist. Still remain one of the most isolationist countries on earth, but them like literally going out of the ancient edict of like, you don't do business. You do not do business with whites. Like literally, like fuck the British, fuck the Americans, fuck all of them. You only do shit inside of Japan with Japanese people, and then to a lesser extent, the fucking like East Asian countries that are around us. And then they fucking went now, and now they're more wealthy than the emperor kind of thing, who's still around. And there's like still like secession shit. They don't talk about it like the Brits do because it's like rude as fuck to talk about like the emperor, so no one does it. But dude, it's gnarly. Yeah, the literally samurai clan Honda, which had Honda Tadakatsu, The man that death could not take because he famously never got injured or scratched in all his battles. It's so fucking based. They still did better than the Koreans, though. But what's the goblin population rate in Vasha? It's a known breeding area. Yeah, there was a Batsu that descended from feudal houses, I believe. Also, love your bids. Is Chariot here? What's up, Chariot? How can someone read so much yet falling into these mistakes? He's so read yet so dumb and clumsy and full of himself. Those corporations were known as Zaibatsu in the Taisho period. Taisho is, I think, the period I meant to say. I said Heian, but I know that's wrong. Daimyo. Daimyo is the word. Thank you. Hard one. Heian era was back when all the magic stuff happened in every weird fantasy. I'm a fucking idiot. Heian era is the height of aristocracy. Think to kill. My bad. The Civic, the Honda Civic is the modern katana. You aren't wrong. Japan, isolationist. North Korea said, hold my beer. North Korea is mostly isolationist as a self-defensive measure. Japan is isolationist, like, spiritually. Like, they just want Japan, like, it's a cultural thing. Whereas, like, North Korea can't let anyone fuck up North Korea, so they don't want to let anyone in, anyone out. But they are the best at it. They are the best at it now. Tyler, what about the Hassanin strip? I thought we were still talking about Japan for a second. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Hassanin strip. God. Oh no. No, that would be it would be the fucking the Taliban. The Taliban works out of the Taliban would just be a non-state entity. Like, always trying to rebuild something that never existed.
And yeah, so I'm excited to be giving you the Japanese civilization video because it's hard to do civilizational research. Because for the politics videos, I have a handful of topics that I have studied already, and so I can slot new information in a pre-existing paradigm. Like, for example, how demographic numbers relate to modern geopolitics. And for civilizations, I need to figure out on an intuitive basis how that civilization operates. In that each civilization, as Spengler said,
an intuitive basis, i.e., I have to reconcile all of my pre-existing beliefs against possibly contradictory evidence. So when the thing is like intuitive, trying to understand things intuitively while also being a chauvinist is impossible. Which is why these sort of belief systems lead to genocide, by the way. When you have something, when you set off on a course, both self-assured that you're right and also self-assured that your rightness and your self-assurance is basically dictated by your understanding or belief in some sort of deontological, like, God, you know what I mean? Or something that is so equivalent to a God as a belief system that it still remains unquestionable. The second you hit a contradiction, you have to either ignore it, lie about it, or destroy it, which I think is his biggest issue, which is what... That is just such a telling thing. Like, he just says, like, I have to find an intuitive understanding. Like, no, what about counterintuitive things? Like, sometimes things just don't make sense. He said, no. If it doesn't immediately vibe, it's probably wrong, which is why you have to keep looking at outdated books, dumbass. Like, did you not read this book from 1923? Like, no. Unless it has enough standing power that all of the other people in that field still swear to it? No. Why would I? Demographics change. Like, trying to understand the past or trying to understand the present through the past without a grounding in the present is psychosis. It is psychosis. There is just no way to do it because you have to accept predictions from people who are not standing literally where you are. Like, and then say, well, this person who I intuitively agree with says that things should be different now, but they're the way they are now, observably through sense data. They're different than the predictions from a book written by a person who's fucking dead about a part of a country that doesn't really spiritually exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is insane. That's insane. There's like, this is the thing where I was joking around, like, what is there to debate Whatifalthist on? Whatifalthist, you can't debate, infers the potentiality. This is why I get into insulting them all the time. Debate infers the potentiality of you being right. Like, that's where the good faith, bad faith comes from, is entertaining the entirety of your idea as though it could be true, but providing the facts that knock it down. But if you provide a premise for debate that is so fucking out there and insane that, like, not just your like debate should be on conclusions. That's really the point. You have to agree on all of the premises, kind of off rip, or most of the premises, because if you disagree on the premises, then you have to talk about the premises. Do you know what I'm saying? Because the premise is where the argument comes from. So most debates should be about conclusions, right? And then trying to get down to it. But not a single one of his premises is grounded in reality. Not a single one of them. And by his own definitions and his own methodology, as he states, he cannot arrive at a true premises, much less a conclusion, because the conclusion has to follow the premises. His premises are inherently wrong. They're like off rip. His methodology is senseless. His understanding is grounded in nothing. His research is worthless. His attempts to pull all of this together are, by his own admission, confusing to him, because he is starting with conclusions and trying to work back in a way that even the most foul, disgraceful fucking charlatans would know that is like not the best way to do it, which is like, hey, like even Nick Fuentes, who is like subhuman filth, when he tries to describe the world, will actually look at the world first and work back from the current year a few decades. You know what I mean? Or just ignore shit. But he's trying to ground scientifically assumptions and assertions about the current era by people who haven't experienced it. Like, and not in a way where it's like, oh, isn't it cool? Like, we're kind of hitting this same beat again. You know what I mean? It's not like when I'm talking about Heinlein, sort of like he explicates a system, right? And because the system's grounded out of reality, you can reapply it to reality. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a framework, and you can see if the framework will fit once you have an understanding of what is actually in place there. Whereas he's just like saying shit. There's nothing there. It's just all completely like, it's like trying to hold water. It's absolutely madness.
That is a sort of soul to them and an underlying logic which propels what they're doing. And it's hard to realize that. And so I've read a lot of books on Mesoamerica because I used to live in Mexico. And so for the longest time I wanted to make...
Is he a fucking Mexican Mormon? Because everything fell into place if that's the case. If this dude's a fucking Mexican Mormon, oh my God. If you don't know what that is, if you think I'm being crazy, I'm talking about white people. There's a bunch of Mormons. It's always fucking Mormons. You fucking Mormons, I swear to God. There's a bunch of Mormons that wanted to be able to have a billion wives and do whatever the fuck. Mormons are bad, by the way. Mormons are just bad. They're bad. I'm sorry. If you're a Mormon, you're a bad person. Sucks to suck. Quit. You're like the worst version of a religion. Mormons are always trying to undo the government that they're a part of in order to institute Mormon theocracy. And they think that that's morally and ethically permissible. They have to be stopped at every end. Mormons are inherently traitorous. Like, they're monsters. Some of them did a schism, sort of, in the 1930s or 40s. I can't remember exactly. And left en masse. A shitload of them went to Mexico so that they could try to evade American laws against certain aspects of their faith that are illegal, particularly the polygamy aspect of it, because polygamy is actually bad. Polygamy is actually a bad thing. And so they went down to Mexico and like basically colonized little subsections of Mexico and have like little fucking fiefdoms down there and like armed guards and like walls and shit, and they get into fights with the cartels. It's insanity. Yeah, Mitt Romney's family's from that splinter group. There's a lot of American politicians who are like, you're like, oh, okay. They're like, I'm a proud Mexican. And then you like look into it and they're just like white fucking colonists. How the fuck are you a proud Mexican and you got a Polish last name? Like, how the fuck did you do that? Then you get down to the bottom of it and you're like, oh, okay, that's why you're blonde. Gotcha. The cum scoundrel. Jesus Christ. 5 pounds of stuff. This guy's just every motherfucker who bases their entire political worldview and expertise off their Hearts of Iron campaigns. I am going to have to play this Hearts of Iron game. I don't know anything about it. I've never played it. I don't think I've ever even seen anything other than like people sharing screenshots of it here and there. I don't understand it. They also steal water sources. Yeah. Mormons are bad. Mormons are actually like bad. It was Mennonite.
Make a video on
Mexican Mormons. Hold on, I'm looking up. Mormon colonies in Mexico. Settlements located near the Sierra Madre Mountains in northern Mexico, which were established by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints beginning in 1885. Oh, it's way further back than I thought. They wanted to do polygamy. They made colonies in the Mexican states of Chihuahua and Sonora, all within roughly 200 miles of the south of the U.S. border. By the 20th century, many of these settlements were relatively prosperous. However, in the summer of 1912, the colonies were evacuated en masse because of the anti-American sentiment during the Mexican Revolution. Based Mexicans. I was right. Don't worry, I was right. Wrong year, but like, it is what it is.
Still American civilization, but it's just exceptionally hard to be able to. It's just exceptionally hard to be able to understand the logic under which that society operates. And I figured out.
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to research a Jewish civilization video, which I know you guys will find very controversial, but
Logan Menchaca. I don't think I've seen your name before, but you've two-time argument. I got. What are you talking about as a Mexican? Let me tell you. We totally still sacrifice hearts in the name of our snake god, hummingbird god of war, and the sun and rain god. That just sounds so fucking cool, though. That dude, it just sounds fucking awesome. Just based fucking Mexicans over here, just making pozole out of fucking long pig.
The thing with Jewish civilization is it's so long, so complicated, and there are so many different through.
Wait, what?
It's so what the thing with Jewish civilization.
How did we
understand the logic under which that society operates? And I figured out for Japan. I've been trying to research a Jewish civilization video, which I know you guys will find very
okay. That was just an insane non sequitur.
The thing with Jewish civilization is it's so long, so complicated, and there are so many different through lines inside of it, in which there are many different narratives, and you have to tease out which of those narratives are true. And for the Jewish civilization video, I want to give the different perspectives of Jewish society. Oh
my God, is he a fucking Mexican Mormon? Is he a fucking Mexican Mormon and he thinks he's the fucking 12th tribe in fucking America? The Garden of Eden was in Jackson County, Missouri. I am a Mormon, and dang it, a Mormon just believes. Oh no, dude.
Yes, in which the Jews have covered multiple continents, thousands of years. They've had a lot of enemies who each have different perspectives. And I want to read. There's a book that's like 1,000 pages. I want to read that. And Kevin McDonald.
The second you walk into Whatifalthist floats down from the sky with a little fairy costume and just taps you on the face and says, "Now, are you a good Jew or a bad Jew?"
Donald, he has some criticisms that I want to read too. I read Paul Johnson's History of the Jews. Paul Johnson writes pretty good books. And Will Durant's written a lot on the Jews too.
Oh my God. Will Durant died 1981. What I believe, Will Durant Foundation. I suspect that when I die, I shall be dead. I would look upon endless existence as a curse, as did the Flying Dutchman and the Wandering Jew. Death is life's greatest invention, perpetually replacing the worn with the new. And after 20 volumes, it will be sweet to sleep. God damn. That's awesome. Will Durant. Oh, he's actually an atheist. Oh, maybe not really. Suspicious. While Durant's works have been well received by popular audiences, his academic reception was more critical. Classic scholar Moses Finley criticized Durant's The Life of Greece on a number of grounds, including the book's racial essentialism and support for the great man theory of history. There we go. Okay. Didn't take too long.
So that's what I've been working on. You guys have seen a lot of my different projects I've been doing right now, so I released the manifesto a couple days ago, and I have the manifesto in my back pocket.
He said people die when they are killed very poetically. Don't invoke that fucking anime in my chat. But people die when they are killed.
Pocket for like 2.5 years. And if you saw the channel 2 years
Sunday
ago,
has a bugbear for
really
Will Durant. He finds him overly simplistic and narrativizing. Well, that's why he likes it.
I came to the conclusion I need to drop it because I see the currents moving around the world. And once you see the direction things flow in, you start to wonder, what is my responsibility in dealing with this? And that's a really deep question. And it's funny, I look around the world today and I think, what motivates people to continue life? Because I've reached a place where I've achieved the bottom levels of Maslow's hierarchy. I'm pretty satisfied with my life across a bunch of metrics. But once you've been blessed with that, what do you do next? And so that's why I'm doing this, because why not? Why not declare war on the internet? If I die, I die. I know I'm not going to die, but why not? Why did I hike the Appalachian Trail? Why did I drop out of school and move to Mexico? That's just the way the world works. And if you want to go for it, you should go for it. And it's fun. Yeah. So you guys, I'm not going to be here for that long. Like I just wanted to make this video to announce my declaration of war. And so you guys can ask me a couple questions, and I'm going to start. I got to finish a sponsorship for an integration for the population crash video. And I'm narrating the video I'm working on now, which is Top 10 Future Wars. So let me
What tier listing the future's wars is awesome.
Answer some of your questions. Damn, you guys are getting questions so fast I can't see them. Yeah, so Tragedy and Hope. This is a book you guys have been talking about. I leave it on my desk. This is one of the best history books I've read. And it's written in the 1960s, and Carol Quigley's a really...
Then it's not... the book itself is history. The book itself is fucking history. Pardon my ignorance, but this man seems very arrogant or thinks highly of his own abilities. He is definitely... This is hubris. This is hubris made manifest. You can't... It's not a history book anymore. The book itself is history. What in the fuck? What in the fuck? It's essentially a history of the world. Like, if it's... Here's the thing. There are books that you will read as an academic. This is the difficulty of trying to have these conversations, because like motherfuckers like this, I think, are just a touch too highly tuned, to say the least, to differentiate the subtleties of language. But there are books from like there's books from like 1820 and shit that you have to go back to for history. But usually it's not because it's a history book. It's usually covers a specific aspect of history. It's like, oh, okay, so we have to refer to, whatever, like Norm Secunda's a treatise on the translation of of tablet 18295 from Rome, and like you go and you look back at that book, and it's because this dude is just the last guy to write about this specific thing, and then he finished it. Like, that's like, okay, specifically this guy described the contents of a burial mound in East Germany to a T, and so like you can still refer to his work when you're talking about stuff. But actual history books, narrativistic books on history that try to boil it down into narratives, like singular narratives of like, how did we get from here to here, are worthless in years a lot of the time. They just are, because people find out new shit. We don't know everything about history because we lose history. We lose books. We lose people that know shit. It actually goes right into what I was talking about, the Starship Troopers thing. This, you could refer to this 100, 200, 500 years down the road, and this stands the test of time. Why? Because this is a direct account of a period of time. These are awesome. Historians love these. No matter how old this is, you can go back to this because this is a direct historical account from a person on the ground of things that happened. It doesn't mean that everything that occurred in it is like 100% the fact, but you can kind of boil down their methodology and figure it out. Now, someone else's book that is like 400 years down, imagine there's, imagine the internet dies tomorrow and it all goes away. The internet's knowledge goes away. And then we have to rebuild stuff for another 300 years. 300 years from now, someone's book who's like, hey, this is the last 250 years while we're talking about stuff, he's going to have gigantic gaps, right? While they're trying to fill in all of the stuff that we lost when we lost the internet. 40 years from there, that guy, the next person down the line, is going to write another book, right? That person's book is going to be more accurate because all of the on-the-ground people that are putting shit together are going to have more understanding of what's on the ground. All that time, every single person that writes, if all of these books are about like history of like entertainment, they could all refer to this book because this is good primary sourcing from someone who lived at the time. You can go back to it again and again and again and again, referencing it in order to not maybe necessarily take everything from it, but to like triangulate the reality of things with it. Like that's an aspect of putting history together. Summations, so to say, summation books, which are often very narrativistic, and by the nature of a book and because of the expansiveness of history, cannot be cohesive. They cannot be holistic. They have to omit things. You know what I'm saying? It's like when a lot of those books are no better. A lot of those books are no better than when I'm trying to freeball my memory of things that happened in the past. They might be extremely accurate. It might be like literally 100% sourced, dated, everything's accurate. But if you look at it now, people are like, oh no, like literally that king wasn't born in that year. That was a mistranslation. And that was actually, that wasn't King Canute. That was King Canute on. Like, and it was just he was actually like born fucking 60 years later and only lived for 4 years after he was crowned. It just happens to be incidental. So we fucked up the entire historical record and we've undone that snarl. So all of the conclusions that you made in this one book are now bunk, which is fine. That's how putting history together works. None of that is going to be, you're not going to achieve any of that if you think everything has to come from an intuitive, look, he doesn't believe me. I can see it in his face. None of that is going to come from a intuitive understanding of history.
Smart guy. And a video I've been wanting to work on for a very long time is I think that in the 1960s, we were on the verge of a intellectual discovery of a new field. Because I think about with history, we often think that science is teleological and that any advance we make has to be made. For example, we think that it was predetermined that we would discover the atom bomb and nuclear technology, but perhaps
Teleological. What, dude, my man's dropping words that I think are a little bit out of his depth. Relating to or involving the explanation of phenomena in terms of the purpose they serve rather than of the cause by which they arise. Relating to the doctrine of design and purpose in the material world. Okay, there you go. What a absolute fucking $20 word. Jesus fucking Christ. Is he going against the Hearts of Iron theory of human progress? The thing is certain things do become obvious. A lot of technological advancements, a lot of time are they are foregone conclusions to a degree. People don't understand how they're done, but a lot of technological advancements are better boiled down to there's a problem and a solution must arise, and like there's a series of problems that have to be addressed to make that solution arise. One of them is just like, I wish I could fix somebody's leg with metal, right? Like metal is good and legs break and people are hobbled and crippled for years afterwards. I wish I could use metal to fix somebody's leg. Someone probably said that a bunch of times in ancient Rome. We go like, or ancient Greece right now. Let's go 3000 BC. Everybody since then has been trying to develop that. No one, if you took them from the past and brought them to the future, would go like, oh, I never even thought to do that. They'd be like, oh, finally somebody figured out how to get this done, right? Which is why the technological advancement age is great, because of materials science developing to the way it is, the development of plastics, the development of technology and communication, we can just arrive at these much sooner. A lot of technological advancement is foregone. The conclusion is foregone. Just sometimes the technology that gets you there is different. But a lot of times it's like, wow, I can't believe this person predicted the past. And it's like, well, no, obviously, like trying to get a TV smaller while you're already seeing TVs get smaller makes sense. Having one that you can carry around at the palm of your hand that doesn't weigh much is just obviously an end state for technological advancement. Like you want to get there. Speakers that are smaller. Go back to like the ancient time. Like there's got to be a way to make the rotational screw movement that pushes water around, push air around. I just can't quite figure out how to do it. It doesn't mean like, Leonardo da Vinci's not like a fucking genius for trying to figure out helicopters. He just was like behind his time. You know what I mean? Or behind or ahead of his time, so to say, and just like saying like, I'm going to draw out my way of doing it. A lot of these are kind of like foregone conclusions. Once you have an understanding of the physics and you do the mathematics of how atoms are held together, like the mathematics of what has to be going on to make atoms like not be smashed and have all of that energy together, you're going to do the calculations almost immediately that like, well, this sounds crazy, but if we actually broke this atom apart, it would produce so much energy that it could potentially like destroy the area that you're like in. So I guess it's good that they stay together. The period of time between like whatever the 1800s or something, where people started first like theorizing that fucking elemental atoms existed, and if they existed, they had to hold a shitload of energy within themselves. Would like doesn't make sense, but I guess it's true. When you get to all the way down the line, eventually you arrive at like, oh well, like I bet somebody's gonna turn that into a bomb. Like the first person that realized like mathematically that fucking atoms held a bunch of energy inside of them, when somebody's like, oh, what do you think people are going to do with that? And you're like, well, they're either going to fucking make a stove heat up or they're going to turn it into a bomb, is like just super obvious, because that's what we always do. It's just those are the aspects of history that repeat themselves again and again and again. It like if anybody who was on a battlefield in ancient Athens and saw a phalanx moving, right, would have thought, man, if I could figure out a way to combine a phalanx with a cart and move it so that the men could like be less like it would wear the men's legs out less to move all of that around, but I can't keep the horse safe. It like there's that preempts a tank all the way because it's just solving problems. Like the issue here is, okay, they've got protection, okay, they've got the ability to attack a bit, but they're running out of energy really quickly because of the like really inefficient moving of human bodies together with heavy shields. I wonder if I could work around that. And you get those things. Like, people are just obviously trying to solve those problems again and again and again and again. Everything gets weaponized eventually. Yeah. Einstein discovered atomic energy and it instantly led to atomic weapons. Well, there you go.
Nuclear technology was implicit upon a previous intellectual discovery that may not have happened in another world. And I think that's more true, where I think in the 1960s, we were on the verge of discovering a science of history in which we could have looked for the pattern.
Somebody asked a question that's very distracting. Vanguard Supreme. Speaking of Starship Troopers, the movie, I wonder if the Mexican Mormon stuff is related to the conspicuously white bread and very American folks with Hispanic names that populate Buenos Aires. No. No. They just kept the names from the books. And in the books, all of those characters are Latino. Specifically, they're not in Buenos Aires. His mom goes to Buenos Aires like on a trip and is killed. In Starship Troopers universe, everybody can get around faster, but they're from somewhere slightly different. And Johnny Rico's Filipino. His literal name is Juan Rico, and he is a Filipino. That is a proud Filipino. Literally a proud Filipino who is very knowledgeable of his past, and his culture is still intact as a Filipino. Carmen is Carmencita. She is also Filipina. Like, no. Verhoeven just hired white people and just kept the names. That's it. It's not. There's nothing fancy about it. Verhoeven just hired white people. He just hired whites. Fucking like even Doogie Howser's characters, Carlo, like Carlito, I think, actually, literally. That's Doogie Howser's character. They're all Latinos. Fucking Verhoeven whitewashed them.
In human behavior.
That was his choice.
Spengler did this. A lot of my authors I like the most. So Carol Quigley is one of the best. Let me just pull them off my shelf too. So I'll be back in a second, guys. Just give me a second. Amory Durancourt is great. Peter Turchin's great. I think I got.
While he's standing, can I just? That's actually pretty close. Hold on. This I guess will work. Humbert, lanky, big-boned, and woolly-chested, with thick black eyebrows and a face that might twitch with neuralgia. Oh my god! They did police sketches. Here we go. Gloomy, good looks, clean-cut jaw, muscular hand, deep, sonorous voice. Well, not that quite. Broad shoulder. I was and still am, despite mes malheurs, an exceptionally handsome male, slow-moving, tall, with dark, soft hair and a gloomy but all the more seductive cast of demeanor. Exceptional virility often reflects in the subject's displayable features a sullen and congested something that pertains to what he has to conceal, and this was my case. But instead I am lanky, big-boned, woolly-chested Humbert, with thick black eyebrows, a cesspool full of rotting monsters behind his slow, boyish smile, aging ape eyes. Humbert's face might twitch with neuralgia. That's Nabokov's own description of Humbert, and this is his face. If you just imagined him without shaving, I'm just saying. Who is that? Oh, he's just got a way about him.
That may not.
He's just got a way about him. Look at this. Imagine just with the teeth. It's so close. It's so close. And even when fucking he starts describing himself, when he the way that he tries to see himself idealized through AI, it almost looks exactly how Humbert tries to idealize himself through AI. That's madness.
Not have happened in another world. And I think that's more true, where I think in the 1960s, we were on the verge of discovering a science of history in which
In the 1960s, we were on the verge of discovering a science of history. I have not read any books past 1969. What if the possibility arises that whatever he says after this is just proof positive, where he's like, I don't understand anything about how all these non-intuitive facts that come to me, and it's just in the 1960s the entire way that we approached history changed to modern wokey shit, and it's better at fucking understanding the past and he can't fucking grasp it. It's gonna be awesome. I don't know if we're going there, but I want to see it.
We could have looked for the patterns in human behavior, and Spengler did this. A lot of my authors that
describe the field of sociology. He described sociology. He did it. He did it. Even in his greatest attempts to MAGA-ize the field of history, he still stumbles incidentally onto men and women of the time, historians of the age, saying possibly a better way to understand history would be through a sociological framework. He said maybe the great man theory of history doesn't work, and he's like, well, I don't know about that. They were onto something, but who knows what it could be. Certainly not the next century and decade of fucking historical science. It seems to me, over a generation ago, many people were writing that there's some breakthrough that's going to come soon. In the next 20 years or so, there will be a departure from the way that we've done things that will shed light onto the past in a way that's never been predicted. We will see as gods into the years that have come before us and know more about those far gone and ancient people that we ever have. If only they had continued their work somehow, we might have learned so much. If only somehow, some way, in the years to come, the science had continued to develop. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god, dude. I'm too tired for this. I'm too tired for this.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the Westside.